Ever felt that incredible rush after a tough workout? You know that feeling of euphoria, like you could conquer the world?
Yeah.
That's the power of endorphins,
Wow.
one of the amazing happiness chemicals our brains produce. And in this deep dive, we're going to explore how understanding these chemicals can give us practical tools to actually feel happier.
hmm
Endorphins, dopamine, and serotonin.
It's fascinating how we often chase happiness
Yeah.
as this abstract idea when
Right.
it has a real biological basis.
Mm.
These chemicals don't just create fleeting pleasure,
Yeah.
they influence our motivation, our mood, even our social connections.
Okay, so let's unpack this before we get into the specifics of each chemical. What even is happiness from a scientific perspective?
Psychologists often distinguish between two types of happiness,
Yeah.
hedonic and eudaimonic.
Okay.
Hedonic happiness is about pleasure,
Okay.
that immediate good feeling you get from things like a delicious meal or a fun experience. Eudaimonic happiness, on the other hand, is about meaning and purpose. The fulfillment that comes from pursuing your passions and living in alignment with your values.
So hedonic is like the instant gratification,
Yeah,
and eudaimonic is more about that deep sense of satisfaction with your life.
exactly.
But for this deep dive, we're focusing on the hedonic side, right?
Yeah,
Because that's where these brain chemicals come in.
exactly. While both types of happiness are important, these chemicals are more directly related to those immediate feelings of pleasure
Right.
and well-being
Yeah.
that contribute to hedonic happiness.
Uh-huh.
And that runner's high you mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
that's a perfect example of endorphins at work.
Okay, so endorphins are the ones that give us that euphoric feeling,
Yes.
but they're also the body's natural painkillers, right?
Yeah, that's right. They're released during physical activity, laughter, even intense emotional moments. What's interesting is that they bind to the same opioid receptors in the brain as pain-relieving drugs, reducing pain and boosting pleasure. It's like our body's built-in mechanism for dealing with discomfort.
So it's not just about physical pain. Endorphins help us cope with emotional stress as well.
Exactly. They contribute to our resilience, helping us bounce back from tough situations. And there's fascinating research showing that activities like dancing or singing in a choir, especially in a group setting, can trigger a surge of endorphins,
Oh, wow.
creating feelings of joy and strengthening social bonds.
That makes me think about how good I feel after a night out dancing with friends.
Right.
It's like a double dose of happiness, the physical activity and the social connection.
Precisely. And speaking of social connection, that brings us to another key player in the happiness game, serotonin.
Okay, so if endorphins are the joy squad, what's serotonin's role in all of this?
Think of serotonin as the mood stabilizer. While endorphins provide those bursts of joy, serotonin is about feeling calm, content, and connected. It regulates mood, sleep, appetite, even social behavior.
Wait, social behavior, what does that mean?
Well, studies show that positive social interactions actually boost serotonin production. It explains why we feel good spending time with loved ones and why loneliness can be so detrimental to our mental health. And here's a mind-blowing fact. Did you know that 90% of serotonin is actually produced in the gut, not the brain?
Hold on, the GUT. So taking care of my gut health is actually crucial for my mental well-being.
Absolutely. The bacteria in your gut play a huge role in serotonin production, which then influences your mood, your sleep, and even how you interact with others. It's a powerful reminder that our physical and mental health are deeply interconnected.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So we've got endorphins for joy and resilience and serotonin for calmness and connection. But what about that drive to achieve our goals, that feeling of accomplishment?
That's where dopamine comes in.
Okay.
Dopamine is often called the motivation molecule
Right.
because it's all about reward seeking and the anticipation of pleasure. It's what drives us to work towards goals and seek out experiences that make us feel good.
So it's not just about the feeling of pleasure itself,
Right.
but also about the anticipation and the drive to get there.
Yes.
That's interesting. If it's not pure pleasure, why does it feel so good when we achieve something?
That's because dopamine plays a key role in our brain's reward system,
Okay.
a complex network of pathways that light up when we experience something pleasurable or rewarding. It's like our brain saying, hey, that felt good, let's do that again.
So dopamine is what keeps us motivated and striving for more.
Yeah.
That makes sense. But what happens when we don't have enough of it?
Well, low dopamine levels have been linked to a lack of motivation, difficulty concentrating, and even depression. In more severe cases, dopamine deficiency is a hallmark of Parkinson's disease, which affects movement and coordination. But the good news is that there are things we can do to naturally boost dopamine levels.
Okay, I'm all ears. What are some practical tips for getting that dopamine flowing?
One of the most effective ways is to set and achieve small, achievable goals. It's not just about setting the goal, it's about the satisfaction of accomplishing it that triggers the dopamine release.
So breaking down big goals into smaller, manageable steps is key.
Yeah.
I can see how that would make the process less overwhelming and more rewarding. What else can we do?
Regular exercise is another powerful dopamine booster. It's not just about the endorphin rush during the workout. Even the anticipation of exercising can trigger dopamine release, making you more likely to stick with your fitness routine.
So even just planning that workout can give you a dopamine hit. That's a
Exactly.
great motivator. Any other tips for maximizing our dopamine levels?
Absolutely. Cultivating gratitude is another powerful tool. Taking a few moments each day to reflect on the good things in your life can actually reinforce those dopamine pathways, making you more sensitive to those feelings of reward and satisfaction.
So we're not just waiting for those good things to happen. We're actively training our brains to appreciate them.
Right.
I like that. It puts us more in control.
Exactly. It's about shifting our focus to the positive and allowing ourselves to truly savor those moments of joy and accomplishment.
This is also fascinating. We've covered endorphins for joy, serotonin for calm, and dopamine for motivation. It sounds like a recipe for happiness.
It really is. And what's even more fascinating is how these chemicals interact and influence each other, creating a complex symphony of well-being. It's not just about boosting one chemical at a time.
Yeah.
It's about finding that balance, that sweet spot where all three are working in harmony.
I'm curious, what are some examples of activities that tap into multiple happiness chemicals at once? That sounds like the ultimate happiness hack.
You're right. There are many things we can do to stimulate multiple chemicals simultaneously. For example, think about going for a hike with a group of friends.
Oh, yeah.
You're getting the endorphin rush from the physical activity, the serotonin boost from the social connection, and the dopamine hit from achieving the goal of reaching the summit.
That's a great example. I'm starting to see how this knowledge can be so empowering.
Hmm.
We're not just at the mercy of our emotions. We can actually take control of our own happiness.
Exactly. It's about understanding how these chemicals work and making intentional choices to create more joy in our lives.
And on that note, I think it's time for us to take a quick break. But don't go anywhere, because when we come back, we'll be diving even deeper into practical tips and strategies for boosting these happiness chemicals and creating a life that is truly fulfilling.
Welcome back. Before the break, we were talking about how combining activities like hiking with friends can give us a boost of multiple happiness chemicals at once.
Right. It's like we're hitting the happiness trifecta. Endorphins, serotonin, and dopamine all working together. Are there other examples of things we can do to activate this happiness cocktail?
Absolutely. Think about creative activities like painting, playing music, or writing.
Hmm.
These can trigger a release of endorphins,
Yeah.
while also providing a sense of accomplishment that boosts dopamine.
Right.
And if you engage in these activities with others, you're adding a layer of social connection that stimulates serotonin.
So finding a creative outlet, especially one that involves collaboration or community, can be a powerful way to boost happiness.
Exactly. It's about finding activities that light up multiple areas of the brain and tap into those different pathways to happiness.
What about the food we eat? Does nutrition play a role in the production of these happiness chemicals?
Absolutely. What we eat can have a significant impact on our brain chemistry. Remember how we talked about tryptophan being a precursor to serotonin?
Oh.
Well, foods rich in tryptophan, like turkey, eggs, and nuts, can help support serotonin production.
So that Thanksgiving turkey come up might actually be a serotonin surge.
Yeah.
But it's not just about gobbling down tryptophan, right?
Right. A balanced diet rich in whole foods is key. Foods rich in omega-3 fatty acids like salmon, walnuts, and flax seeds are also important for brain health and can help regulate serotonin levels. And don't forget about probiotics. Those beneficial bacteria in your gut play a crucial role in serotonin production. So nourishing your gut microbiome with probiotic-rich foods like yogurt and fermented foods is essential.
It seems like we keep coming back to the gut. It's incredible how interconnected our physical and mental health really are.
It really is. We often think of the brain as the control center, but the gut plays a much larger role in our well-being than we realize.
Earlier, we discussed how laughter boosts endorphins. But I'm wondering, are there other unexpected things that can trigger these happiness chemicals?
You might be surprised to learn that even small acts of kindness can have a significant impact on our happiness levels.
Really? How so?
When we help someone in need, volunteer our time, or simply perform a random act of kindness, our brains release both dopamine and serotonin. It's like we're wired for generosity.
So by being kind to others, we're actually being kind to ourselves.
Exactly. It creates a ripple effect of positive emotions, and it makes sense from an evolutionary perspective. Cooperation and support strengthen social bonds
Yeah,
and increase our chances of survival. So those feelings of warmth and connection we get from helping others are deeply ingrained in our biology.
that's a beautiful thought. We've been talking a lot about actively boosting these happiness chemicals, but are there things we should avoid that might deplete them?
That's a great question. Chronic stress is a major culprit. When we're constantly under stress, our bodies release cortisol, a hormone that can interfere with the production and function of dopamine and serotonin. It's like stress puts a damper on our happiness chemicals.
So finding healthy ways to manage stress is crucial for maintaining a balance of these chemicals.
Absolutely. Activities like meditation, yoga, spending time in nature, and engaging in hobbies you enjoy can all help to lower cortisol levels and create a more supportive environment for those happiness chemicals to thrive.
Earlier, you mentioned how powerful touch can be for boosting serotonin and endorphins. Can you elaborate on that a bit more?
Of course. Physical touch, whether it's a hug from a loved one, a cuddle with a pet, or even a massage, triggers the release of oxytocin, often called the love hormone. Oxytocin has a calming effect
Oh.
and promotes feelings of bonding and connection.
So it's not just about the physical sensation of touch, it's about the emotional connection it creates.
Exactly. It's about feeling safe, loved, and supported. And research shows that massage therapy in particular can have a profound impact on serotonin and endorphin levels, reducing stress and promoting relaxation.
So hugs, pets, and massages are officially on my happiness to-do list. This has been so insightful. But I'm wondering if there's a downside to focusing too much on these happiness chemicals. Is it possible to have too much of a good thing?
It's a valid question. While we want to cultivate positive emotions, it's essential to acknowledge that life isn't meant to be a constant state of euphoria. We need a balance of emotions, the highs and the lows, the joy and the sorrow, to appreciate the full spectrum of human experience.
So it's not about chasing some unattainable state of perpetual bliss, but about finding a healthy equilibrium.
Precisely. Challenges and setbacks are an inevitable part of life. It's about navigating those ups and downs with resilience and finding that sweet spot where we can experience joy and contentment while still embracing the full range of human emotions.
That makes a lot of sense. We can't expect to feel happy all the time, but we can learn to manage our emotions and create a life that feels meaningful and fulfilling. Are there any other misconceptions about happiness you often encounter?
One common misconception is that happiness is something we achieve, like a destination. In reality, happiness is more of a journey, a continuous process of growth and self-discovery.
So it's not about reaching some magical endpoint,
Right.
but about the ongoing pursuit of joy and fulfillment.
Exactly. It's about those small, everyday moments of connection, gratitude, and purpose. It's about cultivating habits and practices that nourish our minds and bodies and allow us to show up as our best selves.
This has been such an incredible conversation, and I'm feeling so much more empowered to take control of my own happiness. Before we move on to our listener Q&A, are there any final thoughts you'd like to share?
I think the most important takeaway is that happiness isn't something that just happens to us. It's something we actively create through our choices, our actions, and our mindset. We have the power to shape our own reality, to cultivate joy, and to build a life that is rich in meaning and connection.
That's such an inspiring message. And speaking of inspiring messages, we have some fantastic questions from our listeners who are eager to delve deeper into the science of happiness. So let's move on to your questions and explore even more ways to unlock your happiness potential. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've been talking all about happiness chemicals, and now it's time to answer some questions from our listeners.
I'm excited to see what's on people's minds.
All right, our first question is from David, who asks, I've heard that some people are just naturally happier than others. Is happiness something you're born with, or is it something you could develop?
That's a great question, David. While genetics play a role in our baseline temperament, research suggests that about 50% of our happiness levels are influenced by our environment, lifestyle choices, and thought patterns.
So while our genes provide a starting point, we have a lot of control over how our happiness unfolds.
Absolutely. It's like inheriting a certain type of soil for your garden.
Okay.
Some soil might be naturally richer than others, but with the right care and attention, any soil can be fertile ground for growth.
That's a helpful analogy. Our next question comes from Sarah, who says, I've been trying to boost my happiness through exercising gratitude, but sometimes it feels like I'm just going through the motions. Any tips for making these practices feel more genuine and effective?
Hmm. It's important to approach these practices with intention and mindfulness. Instead of just checking them off your to-do list, try to truly savor the experience. For example, when you're exercising, pay attention to how your body feels. Notice the sensations of your muscles working and appreciate the strength and resilience of your physical form.
So it's about being present in the moment rather than letting our minds wander.
Exactly. And when it comes to gratitude, try to go beyond simply listing things you're grateful for. Really delve into the emotions behind those things.
Yeah.
How do they make you feel? Why are they important to you?
So we're adding a layer of emotional depth to those practices.
Yes.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, our next question comes from Maria, who asks, I've been feeling really stressed and burnt out lately. I know stress can deplete happiness chemicals, but what can I do to replenish them when I'm feeling depleted?
Stress is a natural part of life, but chronic stress can take a toll on our mental and emotional well-being. When you're feeling stressed, it's crucial to prioritize activities that nourish your nervous system. Spending time in nature, listening to calming music, taking a warm bath, or engaging in gentle movement like yoga or tai chi can help to soothe your body and mind.
So it's about finding those activities that help you unwind and de-stress.
Exactly. And remember, even small acts of self-care can make a big difference. Take a few minutes to breathe deeply, savor a cup of tea, or listen to a guided meditation.
Sometimes those little moments of peace are all we need to reset.
Absolutely. It's about incorporating those moments of pause throughout your day to help regulate your nervous system and replenish those happiness chemicals.
Our final question comes from James, who asks, What's one small thing I can do today to bring more joy into my life?
I would encourage you to do something kind for someone else. It could be as simple as offering a genuine compliment, helping a stranger, or donating to a cause you care about.
So spreading a little kindness is a surefire way to boost our own happiness.
It really is. Remember those studies we talked about earlier? Acts of kindness trigger the release of dopamine and serotonin in our brains, creating a ripple effect of positivity.
I love that idea. It's a beautiful reminder that happiness isn't just about focusing on ourselves, but also about extending that joy to others. Well, we've reached the end of our Q&A segment, and what an insightful conversation it's been. As we wrap up this deep dive into the science of happiness, I want to thank you for sharing your expertise with us.
It's been my pleasure. I hope our listeners feel inspired and empowered to create more joy and fulfillment in their lives.
I have no doubt they do. Remember, happiness isn't a destination, it's a journey. And with a little understanding of how our brains work and a commitment to cultivating those small, everyday moments of joy, we can all create a life that is rich in meaning, connection, and well-being. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring and keep shining your light.